10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
This is Dianne Andrews in Black and White. The issues you don't want to talk about. The arts and entertainment you need to know. And now here's your host, Dianne Andrews.
Hello, I'm Dianne Andrews, your host of Dianne Andrews in Black and White. And I want to thank you all for joining us, whether in-stage audience, YouTube audience, or TV land audience. As you know, we're in 40 parishes around the state now, and still trying to get into New Orleans, and hopefully later this year we'll be in New Orleans. I have been on season break, but we're doing some great shows since we came back from season break. Common Core, we did a couple of weeks ago. We're doing Immigration today, which really I looked at immigration as a whole, and I was going to have some Hispanics and some Vietnamese and other people here. But I started talking to my guest today, and I looked at what's going on in Cuba and decided to dedicate an entire day to this man's journey coming from Cuba to America with $0 and not speaking a word of English. Thanks for being here with me, Ricky. Ricky Rodriguez, who's a friend of mine. As you all see, most people that come on, I've got a lot of good friends.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So, Ricky, when we talk about Cuba, we know that President Obama is opening up and loosening some of the embargoes and some of the strenuous things that have been placed on Cuba as far as economic trade. Let's start off just talking about you growing up in Cuba, what it was, because in 1898, the Spanish-American War ended, I think. In 1902, Cuba got its freedom, right, from America, but we still kept Guantanamo Bay as part of a treaty.
That is true.
And we talk about Guantanamo Bay, everyone may not realize it is in Cuba. Havana is at the tip of Cuba. Cuba is 93 miles from the tip of Florida. And we'll have there will be a map on the screen, you'll be seeing this. Guantanamo Bay is at the end of Cuba. And America has a treaty, and we send our, I guess, extremely bad prisoners to Guantanamo Bay. As you know, there's been a lot of talk during Bush that they were waterboarded. And now during Obama, they say they don't waterboard. And President Obama and Democrats want to make sure that they close Guantanamo Bay. I would rather see those kind of, myself, this is not Ricky's opinion, my opinion, that those prisoners should stay in Guantanamo Bay and not bring those kinds of prisoners to America. It's been proven that a lot of those prisoners go back to the Middle East when they get out also, and they become a part of a bigger regime to turn over and try to kill America with ISIS and other Al-Qaeda and over in the Middle East. So I'm taking this a little further than Cuba. I'm going on my rampage about Guantanamo Bay. But again, that was my opinion, not necessarily. But we do want to know, something is prompting, I think 30,000 people a year come from Cuba to America. And Cuba is only 11 million people. It's not a big island. It's right there, you know, as 93 miles from Florida. Key West, Florida, 93 miles. So when you were growing up, and we know in 1902, Cuba got, I think, their freedom and the treaty with Guantanamo Bay. And you were born in 1954 or 55?
1955.
1955. And in 1959, Fidel Castro took over the lead of becoming, do you call it president in Cuba, the president of Cuba?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's a Marxist society, which is communism. And so tell us, if you remember anything, those first 4 or 5 years growing up, or what your parents told you about before Castro and what happened. Something made your family, your mother, and you want to leave, and your brother.
I don't really remember too much. I was very young, you know, before Castro took over. But I heard a lot of, you know, from my family,
Right.
And then they, you know, after Castro took over, everything changed in the island.
Because Havana was like Las Vegas. It was the playground of the Americans, right?
It was different. Not too many people agree with Batista. But
That was
then-
the former president
that was
before
former
Castro.
president before Castro, you're right. But then, everything changed. And then it was the time that, a lot of Cubans immigrate because they didn't like the system. After the
Southern
year
Cuba.
2000, and then United States and Castro had some type of agreement, and then we stay in Guantanamo, and then Guantanamo Bay is a military,
Right.
United States.
we
military
house
base,
prisoners, yeah.
and they hold, prisoners in there. That's what I.
So growing up, you were, you don't remember too much before, but your father had his own business as a butcher. He owned a meat market, correct?
That's my grandfather.
That was your grandfather?
My grandfather.
He was still living when Castro took over?
Oh yes. He lived there under Castro regime.
What did your father do?
For many years. My father, he got involved into more like, how can I say, because there's not really, he was into the
Government, administration,
some type of, I would say.
That was
I would say
after
that.
Castro.
Yeah, that was
What did he
after
do before?
Castro.
Didn't he have his own
Castro,
business?
I think he was he has his own business. Yeah, he was into the tailoring.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Business.
And your mother did not work?
No, she was a household. She just.
But after the communist or Marxism, at that time, then people were kind of told more what they were going to do, not necessarily what they wanted to do in education and in business, kind of. If, like, I know you had told me you wanted to major in architectural engineering, right?
Yeah,
in college.
I want to talk about that a little bit. We really have, it's a small island, and then everybody really is an educated person.
Is educated, highly educated Cuba.
Educated, yeah.
Even under the Castro regime.
Even under the Castro regime. I mean, we have, let's talk about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time to get into the university, and I wanted always to become an architect. Second choice is becoming a doctor. Well, I could not really achieve that. I have to really take what was offered.
What the government says you can do, because education is free there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
education
you don't
is
pay
free
for
there. You don't
college
pay.
there, right.
But then you have to, in order for me to becoming a doctor, I had to work on that field. I had to be related to the medical field.
You had to work in a hospital or something before.
Something like that, yeah. And then.
And that's just not you. This is everybody back then had
yeah,
to.
it's everybody. So yeah, so I had no choice but to start becoming a mechanic engineer, going to school for a mechanic engineer.
So you couldn't do what you wanted to, but what the
Exactly.
government wants you to do.
Of course, I went to school and I struggled tremendously to.
No matter how hard you tried, you couldn't do what you wanted to
do
do.
what I wanted to do, so I had no choice but
They
take
told you this is what you're going to major in, mechanical. That's the only engineer you can be.
Cuban.
You can go fix something else, but
Yeah.
you can fix stuff, but you're not going to be an architect or a doctor.
Exactly. You're
Right.
not gonna,
So how did you feel when that happened, Ricky? This is what your heart's desire was.
Well, I was waiting 2 years already before I was, tried to get into the university and then to be, do something with my life. And then
and that was your dream.
I had
Your dream.
I had no choice. I had to just take what I was offered.
Mm-hmm.
And then.
It was this or nothing. That's all they offered you,
Exactly,
mechanical engineer.
Exactly, or nothing. And
Did
then,
you have good grades in high school to go to college?
average.
Average,
Average.
You
I
think
was
that may have been-
married. I was
okay.
married back then. I was going to, I was supporting my family, and then average. I wouldn't say I was.
I mean, in high school. You were married in high school?
No.
I'm saying to
talking
get
about-
into college, did you have good grades in high
Oh
school?
yes,
okay.
yes, I do. That's one of the reasons I was able to
Even get into college?
get into college because
Okay.
my grades. Otherwise, and they have 200 openings every year. So
For the
you imagine
university.
for the for to
What
get
was that, Havana University?
yeah
Uh-huh.
yeah and then I went through hard times just trying to get into school every day. I used to work from 7 or 8 o'clock. I had to be at work at 8 to 4, and go through school at night from 5 to 11 o'clock. And then.
Now, did Lupe work? Your wife? Did she work?
She didn't work.
Stayed home with the
She had to
children.
take care with my older son. But it was very, very hard for me because transportation.
Right.
That's the main thing. Transportation. I mean, I have a hard time to get. We were so far from.
No bus system.
No buses, and everybody. It was very, very hard.
Never a bus system when you were living there in Havana.
Yeah, we have a bus system in there, but.
Because you in Havana.
You can get into. I mean, you can't. It was very hard.
So crowded, you couldn't get in the bus.
So crowded. Yeah, you're
Not
right.
enough buses.
Sometimes we had to walk through 3 miles before we'd be able to go through another route.
Yeah.
Get home, and then by the time I got home, it was 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then it was. I never get to see really my kids.
Yeah. That's and so then after you went to engineering, then mechanical. How old were you when you finished? Because I know you came over here. What made you decide, I've got to get out of Havana, Cuba? I want to come to America.
Well, my family have for many years, when I was a young boy, they always wanted to leave the island. And
why? Because of the restraints?
Yeah, political reasons, that didn't agree with the regime, and the Castro regime, and they wanted. So eventually, slowly, all my family flew to the United States, and
so legally they let so many people come to America every year. So you had to wait your turn. Your family. It was your mother?
Right. Yeah.
Your
no,
family?
I had to wait until I become old enough to leave the island.
You were 25.
Yeah. You had to really wait until you become 23 years old.
You can't leave down until you're 23.
No.
So what about your children? Yeah. How did you bring them? You had children.
Well, yes, I did have Alvin was 3 years old back then.
Could he come?
Unfortunately, I had to come by myself.
Okay.
Me, my mother, and my
brother.
Uh-huh. And then 2 months later, I was lucky enough to be able to go to Cuba and bring my wife and my younger.
How could you bring him in? He was a couple of years old. You got lucky or what?
No, it's they opened the Mariel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember in 1980. And then
they opened the what?
The Mariel.
We're gonna hold this for a second, and we're gonna take a break. We'll be right back with Dianne Andrews in Black and White.
The odds of this daughter of a clergyman spending 11 weeks at #1 on the U.S. singles charts? 1 in 19 million. The odds of going on to win 6 Grammy Awards? 1 in 1.4 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 150. I'm Toni Braxton, and I encourage you to learn the signs of autism at autismspeaks.org.
Order your copies now of Dianne Andrews' latest books, Third Man Out, a suspenseful mystery by Dianne Andrews, and Gumbo for the Heart, 25 stories of faith, hope, and charity, both available now on Amazon.com.
Okay, thanks for coming back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. Today, my guest is Ricky Rodriguez. He's the owner of Ricky's Creative Jewelry here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, on Florida Street, about to move on Coursey Boulevard. Is that where you're moving, Ricky? He's one of my he's my jeweler. He makes things for me, he fixes things, he does a great job over there. But what Ricky's here for today is to talk about Cuba, because it's so hot in the news now about what's going on in Cuba with President Obama and the government, our government, loosening the embargo. Whether you think it's right or wrong, we're just here to tell you some things that went on while he lived there, and he was born in 1955 and left 25 years later to come to America because it was the restraints in Cuba. We've talked about he couldn't really major in what he wanted to. His heart was set on being an architectural engineer or a doctor, and the government told him, hey, this is what you're going to be. You're going to be a mechanical engineer, and that's it. So did you finish college in mechanical engineering?
I didn't have the opportunity to finish because I was ready to come to the United States.
And that wasn't
So
what
I
you
had to
really
stop
wanted to
everything.
do, right? You didn't want to do it anyway, right? Mechanical engineering.
No, not at all. Not at all. I just had to stop everything.
Right.
I don't want to anything to.
Did
be
a
in
lot
the
of your
way.
family come over? I know a lot of Cubans come over, like I said, 30,000.
Well, just like I
think,
say, I was the last part of the family to come because back then you have to serve the military, or you had to. As long as you are on the age of from 15 to 23 years old.
15.
15, yeah.
You go to the military at 15?
Yeah. I was 15 and a half, of 16 years old.
You went to the military?
Yes, I served in the military in there for almost 3 years.
And you have to serve 3 years when you're
Yes,
15?
mandatory.
Okay.
Yeah. And then until you reach the age of 23, you are not able, you can't leave the
island.
So, time passed by, and then I was able to come.
And your brother's 2 years older or younger than you?
It's, about 2 years old. It's just a year and a half.
Okay, so he was 27, you were 25.
No. Younger.
Younger, so he was 23, so he could come. That's what your mother was waiting on, to bring your brother, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Then, like I say, we came in 1980. We had the opportunity. I had the opportunity to go to with the help of my uncle, of course. I mean, we went to Cuba in a boat, and then I pick up my family, my rest
Was
of the
that
family.
little boy, that Gonzalez boy, Ilian
Gonzalez, yeah.
Yes, that came from Cuba. His mother lost her life bringing him out of Cuba about, 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
It was so, she felt the times were so desperate in Cuba, she needed to get her son out, but she died. And we had to end up taking, I think that was under Clinton, I think. I think it was. Yeah, it was
Yes,
under Bill
yeah,
Clinton.
Clinton.
And we ended up him going back. It was a big ruckus because most Cubans live in Miami Beach. They call it Little Havana, a
Yes,
section of,
yes.
I
If
think.
you have over a million
80% of
people,
our Cubans are in Miami and Florida, I
it's
read.
a whole.
Why didn't you all go to Florida?
Because I have all my family in Baton Rouge.
Oh, they were
where
already
they're
here?
already here. Yeah, I was the less of the
Because I
part
think
of the family.
you
to
have
come.
some family even in the other, in jewelry and things like that here.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
and-
how I learned the
and-
trade,
yeah.
because my uncle, O'Halloran.
O'Halloran's. Okay, we're giving him a commercial today, too.
Really? That's great. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that.
So that's
yeah.
how you learned how to create jewelry, because you couldn't speak English. You all came straight to Baton Rouge. So how did it feel being more in a free place than you were down there, and now you could do whatever you wanted to do? How did that feel?
Oh my Lord, that's I had no really words to express the gratitude that I have for this country. You opened the hands for me and my family, and gave us shelter and gave us the opportunity to become what I am right now. I
Right.
could not achieve that in Cuba. I would never dream to
Well, they wouldn't
be
have-
what I am
right.
right now if I was living in
Well,
Cuba.
you couldn't own a business there because they
No.
told you you had to be a mechanical engineer or nothing.
No, it was very.
I
yeah.
think that's a good point, that people in America, and that's one reason I wanted to do this show, we don't understand how lucky and how blessed we are to be in America, the home, the land of the free and the home of the brave. And we really need to do better, I think, in America to appreciate what we have in America.
Well,
I don't
most
think we do
people,
a good
I
job.
don't think most. I mean, you cannot imagine, how in my
Lifetime
talking about
experience, yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
how grateful I am.
Do you think most Cubans that your relatives are happy that they came and are very grateful to America?
Oh yes, and then Yes,
Now, these
indeed.
days, I know that some people come to get to America, you go through Mexico, right? And it's easier when you go to Mexico to come over to America, to the border.
You trying to live the different ways. Most people come by boat. They come illegally. Most people go through Mexico. the best way that you know, the best chance that they had to live the country. That's how they.
That's how they do it. Whatever it takes.
That's how they do it. Whatever it takes.
I think that's what we Americans. You don't have Americans fleeing in boats and risking their lives to leave America to go to another country. If people would just look at that and think about why do people do this? It is because America is such a great country. As bad as it may be, and we do some, you know, it's some bad things that go on in America, but just go live someplace else and you'll see how grateful it is here.
You have to live somewhere else before you'll be able to really appreciate and compare, you know.
Right. Now, one thing I do like Cuba, you can't carry guns in Cuba, right? You can't shoot people and rob people. That's something America allows. Canada doesn't even allow guns.
We didn't have freedom of speech in there, or we didn't have, I mean, if you had no
if you said something about the regime, they would come to your house, get you?
Oh, yes.
Like we see the movies of the Holocaust and things like that.
Oh, yes. They even put you in jail.
Did they own the newspaper and all the news outlets?
They own everything.
They owned everything.
The government owns everything. There's nothing. They own everything. They confiscate everything from.
All your material things. Like if you had a car they didn't want you to have, would they have taken it?
Yes, well, not the card,
yeah.
You know, but as far as businesses, like my grandfather used
they took his business, your grandfather.
Took his business away, they confiscated, and hotels, everything, refineries, oil refineries.
Why do you
everything.
think Castro, now Raul, look like Fidel Castro has expanded the test of time, look like he didn't die, you know? He's still there, but his brother runs the country now, Raul Castro, which met with the Pope recently, and the Pope, you know, thinks also, as the government does, that it's a good thing to open up the borders to free, you know, looser trade embargoes on do you, and you don't, tell me if you don't want to answer this, do you think it will make things better as we loosen up trade embargoes?
It's hard for me to answer that question. I mean, the only thing that I will be more comfortable in answering the question is if Cuba have the Cuban people are allowed to elect their own president, you know.
And as long, Raul, they didn't elect him, right?
So,
they're
yeah,
like
that,
dictators for life, right?
Once you had that, and then
a democracy is what
more
you're saying.
democracy, yeah. And then, you know, then I just cannot answer. I have no.
See, I don't know if the embargo, loosening the embargo. Now, what I've read, some people don't believe it worked.
Yeah.
They don't believe the embargo worked. They still get everything they want in, but people are still pretty poor in Havana and
anything that I will, you know, anything that is good for people, you know, I agree with it.
Right.
You know, of course, you know, for the best of, you know, but whether they get better or not,
yeah.
Without
democracy and with an autocracy, I don't know how things don't. You know, they're not. There's nothing to make Raul Castro or any of the Castros or anybody who's a dictator change. Just because you loosen embargoes, who's the money still going to go to? Maybe the people in power.
That's my opinion.
It seems like, and this is, you know, just what I'm thinking, and I could be totally off base.
No, that's the way I think.
Yeah.
You know, it's without have the freedom of, you know, elect your own president, and then, you know.
Now, do they have government housing like in America? We do have quite a few, especially veterans. I did a show on homeless, and I've been down to feed the homeless downtown and try to donate and help homeless around here. And a lot of them are veterans. We know we have some problems with our government and what's happening with our veterans. And about 30% of our homeless are veterans, but a lot of them have PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. Do you have homeless people there? They make sure everybody's off the streets and have housing to live in?
Not really. I really never see anybody hungry asking for food or anything like that, or living in the street, living in the, you know.
But some of the projects are pretty bad.
You're right.
I've seen some pictures of some of the projects.
Yeah,
they're pretty bad.
It is pretty bad in there. To the point that, I mean, okay, I get married and I had to build my house on top of my mother's house.
On top of a house?
Or right next to it, or somewhere right.
Your mother's house?
Like, I never had the opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to buy my house. Because there is no really offer for that. I mean, no, you know.
All land is leased to the people back then. You could not own your own property. You couldn't own anything.
Well, yeah, there is nothing to buy in there. I mean,
the government owns.
The government owns everything, and they.
Back then, we don't know about today, but we know 20 years ago. I don't know really about
today.
I don't think it's changed that much. We still got people coming in here from Cuba immigrating.
35 years ago.
Yeah.
So right now, I believe that right now it's a little
loosening
bit
up
different.
some.
It's loosening up, yeah.
Raul may be a little better than Fidel.
Oh, well, yeah, I heard that.
Fidel's
you
what,
know,
almost 100? What is he, 95 or something? He's got to be pretty old.
Yeah.
Well,
he's
Ricky,
pretty-
is there any message that you would like to leave to the public out there about Cuba or about America? You said you're very happy to be here, your families, you've done very well here. And you know, you learned English and you worked hard and you own your own business and it's done very well and you live an American dream, right?
Yeah,
Life.
It's the land of the opportunity. I mean, you
Right.
can really do wonders in here. You can do, you know, you have the freedom to do
Right.
whatever you want. You know, and what else can you ask?
That's
I mean,
right. And people that don't take advantage of it should look in the mirror, because it's not that America doesn't allow you. We all overcome obstacles. I don't care, black, white, woman, male, Cuban, coming here not speaking English, you know, you couldn't even speak the language, coming here with no money. And I know a lot of immigrants who have come like that and have become very successful. So let's take advantage of what we have in America. Let's take the chips off our shoulders and let's stop feeling sorry for ourselves and just go out and get it done. Who says that? Is it Nike or Reebok, one of them? Let's do it is one of them. I say let's just go get it done. So thank you very much. Here we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back with Dianne Andrews in Black and White.
Order your copies now of Dianne Andrews' latest books, Third Man Out, a suspenseful mystery by Dianne Andrews, and Gumbo for the Heart, 25 stories of faith, hope, and charity, both available now on Amazon.com.
Thanks for coming back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. You know, I asked some of my regular viewers if they ever get tired of seeing me light the white candle, and everybody says no. I think it brings out a spirituality to people out there in the audience and at home also. As you know, when I was a little girl growing up in this little town, Marouge, Louisiana, I saw this show. And they would, on Sundays, a religious show, and they would light a white candle and say, if everyone lit just one little candle, what a bright world this would be. And I have always tried to live my life that way, helping people. I always tell people humility and humanity. Because at the end of the day, none of us are that important that the world won't turn without us being here. So go out and make the world a better place. And remember, be humble and have humanity for other people in the world. God bless and have a wonderful week until you watch me next week on Dianne Andrews in Black and White.